Have you ever felt like something was watching you, but only when you thought you were alone? What if the shadows following you didn't disappear when you went inside? What if they visited you in your dreams and stayed long after you woke up? These are four stories about shadow people, things that don't just lurk in the dark, but reach in and never let go. I don't know if anyone will believe me. Honestly, I'm not even sure I believe me. Not all the way. But I have to say this out loud, even if I don't make it to the end of the story. Because if I don't, someone else might. It started the night I got back from my sister's house. She lives out in the woods, a back road with no cell towers, one neighbor within screaming distance. I'd stayed too late, and the drive back felt like being swallowed. It was just me, two weak headlights, and black trees. But the trees weren't the part that bothered me. I stopped at the last gas station before hitting the county line. When I came out, I thought someone was standing across the road. It was tall and still. I couldn't see a face, just the shape, but I blinked and it was gone. I told myself it had to be a tree stump. I was wrong. I didn't think much of it until I pulled in my driveway. That's when I saw it again. It was standing across the street, just still and watching. It was the same size and same posture, like it had just followed me home. I turned my porch light on and it vanished. Not ran, not stepped away, just gone. And that was the moment I think it knew, and the moment I should have known better. You know when you spot something out of the corner of your eye, and you turn and nothing's there? Do you ever wonder what would actually happen if you caught it? Like, really fully saw it? Yeah, so did I, until I learned why you're not supposed to. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house felt like it was leaning closer. I kept checking the window, but nothing was out there. Nothing I could see, anyway. But around 3 a.m., I woke up gasping, and that's when I heard the lock turn. I grabbed my bat and flipped every light in the house on and went room to room, but there was nothing. The side door was still locked, but the key was in it, and I hadn't used that door in weeks, at least not that I remembered. The next day, I set up a trail cam on my porch, not because I thought I'd catch anything, I just needed proof I wasn't going insane. But you know how trail cams work, right? They trigger on motion, and something was moving. That clip showed me opening the front door in the middle of the night. I didn't remember doing it, and just before the footage cuts out, something moves in the reflection behind me, something closer than it should be. I called my sister the next morning. She asked me one question. Did you look at it? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She just said, then it's already too late. That night, I locked everything. I barricaded the back door. I slept in the living room with every light on. I still woke up with dirt on my feet. I still woke up with the front door open. And I still woke up knowing I was not alone. I don't think it's watching from outside anymore. I think it's waiting. And I think it's getting closer every time I close my eyes. But this story doesn't end here. Not yet. I tried ignoring it. I tried pretending it wasn't real. But you can't ignore it once it knows you saw it. That's when they get closer. That's when they change. And once they change, you can't make them stop. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't knock, it doesn't whisper, it doesn't ask permission. It watches until it doesn't have to. And when it finally moves, you're already too late. I started hearing footsteps, not creaky floorboards or shifting walls, but steps, deliberate and heavy. But it was always just out of view, close enough to hear, but too far to catch. I moved into the guest room. I thought maybe it would only go to certain rooms. But that night I woke up, not to a sound, but to the absence of sound, like the house was holding its breath. There was a shadow under the door. It was standing still, like it was waiting. I stayed awake until dawn. When the birds finally started chirping, I opened the door, but there was nothing there, and the hallway smelled like burnt dust and static, like something had been charging itself. I went to work looking like hell. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. A coworker asked if I was okay. I said I was just tired. She paused and then said, "You know there's someone standing behind you in all your Zoom meetings, right?" I checked the recordings. It was always there, a blur in the doorway behind me. Sometimes it was just a shape. Once there was a faint glint where eyes should be, and in every frame it was getting closer. I went home and covered every camera. I unplugged the Wi Fi box. I turned every mirror around. And then I remembered the trail cam footage. The reflection. The thing in the glass wasn't in my house, it was right over my shoulder. I haven't seen it clearly again, not since that night, but I know it's still there because it's doing something worse than showing up. It's waiting until I forget it's real, and forgetting is exactly what it wants. I've heard stories online about people who see a shadow figure once and then never again, but no one ever talks about seeing them again, not because they don't, but because the second time is the last. It doesn't knock anymore. It doesn't even hide. Sometimes I wake up and feel breath on my face. There's no sound and no movement, just the feeling that something is almost touching me, like it's testing if I will notice. I haven't left my house in 3 days. I can feel it closer now. It knows I'm telling this story. It wants me to stop, but you need to understand. The moment you look at it, it comes for you. I moved into the apartment for the quiet. No roommates to deal with, no shared walls. It was the top floor of an old walk up that smelled like wood rot and tired dreams. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and for the first 2 weeks it was exactly what I wanted, until it wasn't. It started with small things, keys showing up in odd places, lights flickering, not dying, just pulsing. The air felt thicker at night. I chalked it up to bad wiring and stress. But then I started seeing it. Not clearly, not at first. One night I was brushing my teeth, and in the mirror I saw someone walk past the door, casually like they lived there. Except I live alone. It's just me. I checked the hallway, but it was empty. The front door was locked. And the weirdest part, the mirror fogged up after I walked away, like someone had been breathing behind me. The feeling of being watched got worse. I started leaving the bathroom light on, then the kitchen, then the hallway. Eventually I was sleeping with every light on, but it didn't help. If anything, it made the shadow stand out more. I set up a cheap motion camera in the living room, one of those discount ones that sends clips to your phone. In the middle of the night, I got a notification that there was movement. In the footage, a shadow walks from my bedroom to the front door. I paused the clip and cranked the brightness. It looked like a person, but it had long arms and its proportions were all wrong. It didn't have a face. The next night I unplugged everything. I turned off all the lights and all the cameras. I wanted to not know. I wanted to sleep. I barely made it 2 hours before waking up to the sound of someone breathing. I got up, but I didn't turn on the light. I just stood there listening. When I finally flipped a switch on, there was nothing in the room. But on the ceiling above my bed, there were footprints, like someone had walked upside down across it. I called my landlord and told him there was something wrong. He said the last tenant had weird energy, too. He said the guy talked to corners and then disappeared and left everything behind. I searched the apartment. I went through every drawer and every closet. Inside a floor vent in a bedroom, I found a note. Scrawled in pencil, it said, "Don't look directly at it. Pretend you can't see it." I stared at it for a long time. I wish I had listened. That night, I saw it clearly, standing in the bathroom doorway. It wasn't a reflection. It was just there, still and watching. It didn't flinch when I turned. It just leaned forward. I haven't left yet. I don't know why. Something about the place feels like it needs someone here, like it gets hungry without a witness. I haven't made eye contact with it yet. I won't. At least, I don't think I will. I made it 3 more nights. 3 nights of pretending not to see it, of walking past it, of eating while it hovered in the kitchen doorway, of sleeping while it stood in the corner of my bedroom. At least, I think I slept. It doesn't react to light anymore, or sound, but I swear every time I fake not seeing it, it gets a little closer, a little bolder, like it knows I'm lying. I caught myself talking out loud, saying things like, just the fridge, or I left that door open, even when I knew I didn't. The worst part is, I think I liked it, the pretending. I stopped recording, I stopped watching, I stopped moving when it was in the room, but then I noticed something new. A shape, not in the room, in the walls, like the shadow was deeper than the paint. I touched the spot where I saw it behind the bookshelf. It was warm, pulsating almost, like the wall was breathing, or something behind it was. I started losing time. An hour here, 20 minutes there. I'd come into another room with no memory of coming in there. Once I woke up on the fire escape barefoot, holding a photo of myself sleeping. I tried leaving. I packed a bag and got to the door, but I couldn't open it. Not like it was locked, like I'd forgotten how doorknobs worked, like my brain wouldn't let me turn it. That night, I heard my voice, but I wasn't speaking. It came from the bathroom mirror, like it was practicing me, running lines and getting ready to replace me. I cracked the mirror with a hammer. It didn't break all the way, but behind the splinters, the reflection stayed. I mean that literally. I wasn't standing in front of the mirror anymore, but my reflection was still there. It moved that night. Not the shadow, but me. I watched myself sit up in bed and cross the room and stand in front of the window. Then I blinked, and I was there, standing, but I hadn't gotten up. I don't think it wants to hurt me. Not exactly. I think it wants to be me. It wants to wear me and to move the way I move. To copy me until no one can tell the difference, including me. I've stopped turning lights on. I've stopped leaving notes, but none of it helps. I caught it whispering to itself again, mumbling about staying forever. I'm still here, I think. The thing in the mirror still follows me half a second late. I haven't looked at it again, not directly, but I feel it behind me right now, and I know it's coming for me soon. It was supposed to be a quick day hike, one trail in and same trail out. It was well marked and beginner friendly, but the forest was quiet that day. Too quiet. There were no birds and there was no breeze. Even the bugs seemed to have packed it in. About 30 minutes in, I saw something. A figure standing still between two trees. It was too tall and too narrow. I thought it was an illusion at first, but then I blinked and it was closer. Not dramatically, it just shifted. I turned around, a little shaken. I figured I was just seeing things, but when I tried to retrace my steps, there was no trail and no markers. Just trees, like the forest had closed behind me. I told myself to stay calm. The GPS still worked, sort of. It showed my dots standing still, even when I walked or ran, like I was pacing inside a dead signal. Eventually, I stopped trying to use logic because the logic wasn't helping. The trees weren't in the same place. Rocks I had passed reappeared miles later. I started to wonder if it was the woods that were moving instead of me. I picked a direction and walked straight. I walked for 3 hours, but I ended up in the same clearing with the same trees and the same figure. But it was closer now. Not walking, just appearing from nowhere. I shouted, I cursed, I begged, but the figure didn't react. But the air around it got heavier. The forest started to tilt. Not the ground, but my perception. Like I was in the wrong layer of reality. I eventually sat down and closed my eyes, just for a second. But when I opened them, I was back on the trail, in the middle of the day with the sun shining and the birds chirping like nothing had happened. I practically sprinted back to the parking lot. My car was there, but it wasn't parked the way I left it. There was mud on the tires, and something written on the back window in the dust. You saw it. I told myself I'd imagined it. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post online. I figured if I ignored it, it would fade. But the problem is, once you see it, you can't unsee it. That night, I dreamed of the trees again. Except it wasn't a dream. I woke up with pine needles in my sheets and a branch on my bedroom floor. I've started seeing the trail entrance in other places. behind my neighbor's shed, at the end of the grocery store parking lot, in my hallway mirror. I don't walk toward it, not anymore. The thing I saw in the woods hasn't moved, but it's always closer, and I'm not sure I ever actually left the forest. I think it's still around me, just disguised. It wasn't just dreams anymore. The forest started leaking into reality. Tree bark on my floor, the smell of moss in my sheets. And the worst part? Every window in my apartment now looks out on trees, even the ones that used to face the street. I found dirt under my front door, footprints leading into my living room. They weren't mine. They were barefoot with long strides, the same pattern I saw in the forest clearing. I swept them up, but they came back by the next morning. I tried leaving town. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't pack much. But the motel window still showed those same woods, with the same narrow trail, and the same figure. Only this time, it waved. Have you ever had a dream that feels like a memory, where everything's slightly off, and like your brain filled in the blanks wrong? That's what life feels like now. Except I don't think I'm dreaming, and I really don't think I'm the one who filled in the blanks. I looked up the area where I hiked. I found nothing about hauntings or disappearances, but I found a comment thread that chilled me. It was people describing the same forest, with the same looping trail. One said, "The thing isn't in the woods, it is the woods." I recorded myself sleeping. On night 3, I watched myself sit up and walk to the closet and whisper something. Frame by frame, I enhanced the audio. It wasn't my voice. It sounded older, like something wearing my voice. The woods are in my head now. I smell them when I shower. I hear branches cracking behind me when I walk through my apartment. But the worst is the echoes. My thoughts looping back and repeating, sometimes finishing in different ways. My sister called yesterday. She said I sound different, more monotone, less me. She said my laugh was wrong. I don't even remember laughing. I woke up outside my front door, fully dressed with my keys in my hands, and my phone was recording. The clip was 23 minutes long, just static, wind, and one whisper at the very end, almost ready. I'm not leaving anymore, not because I don't want to, but because I'm afraid if I go too far, I'll find another trail. And this time, I won't come back. At least not as me. My computer auto-uploaded an audio file I never made. It was titled Final. It's me narrating everything I just told you, but with different words and better pacing, and no mistakes. Like it's polished, or rehearsed, like something's been editing me. I don't know how long I've been here, or where here even is. Maybe this is still the forest, and maybe I never left. Maybe I just thought I was supposed to leave. Either way, if this uploads, don't follow the trail, because if it shows up for you, it means you've already been seen. I never used to dream, or at least I didn't remember them. Sleep was just sleep, dark, quiet, forgettable. Until the night it started. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. The room was pitch black except for the faint glow of the streetlight outside. I thought I'd heard whispers, soft like a breath against my ear, but when I opened my eyes, there was nothing but shadows. The next night, the shadow came back, only this time it felt closer, like something was standing at the edge of my bed, watching and waiting. I tried to convince myself it was stress, work, life, whatever, but it wasn't that. It was different, cold and unrelenting. The dreams started to get sharper. They weren't just shadows anymore, they were faces. Blurred, shifting faces that I couldn't quite focus on. And eyes. So many eyes watching from everywhere. I noticed the shadows moved when I looked away, like they knew I was watching, like they were studying me, learning my fears. I stopped sleeping in my bed. I moved to the couch and tried to barricade myself in blankets, but nothing helped, because no matter where I slept, they were there. One night I dreamt I was outside, walking through foggy streets. When the shadows appeared around me, behind me, and inside me, I woke up gasping for air. I started keeping a dream journal, trying to catch patterns, but the more I wrote, the worse it got. It was like the act of remembering made them stronger, as if they fed off my fear. In the quietest moments, I heard words, not clear, but close enough to send chills down my spine. Don't look. Come closer. We're waiting. I looked up shadow people. All the stories said they're drawn to fear and attention, that if you see them, they follow you. I tried ignoring it, but they don't go away. That's when I realized they don't just visit in dreams. They're waiting for me when I'm awake. The line between dreams and waking blurred. I'd catch shadows in the corner of my eye during the day. It was just glimpses, but enough to make my skin crawl. I'd wake up and find things moved. My keys weren't where I left them. There were doors that I swore I locked were open, and always the feeling that someone was behind me. I stopped telling people. They'd think I was losing it, but I knew I wasn't crazy, because sometimes I could hear them breathing. Sleep became a battleground. I'd close my eyes and try to fight it, but they pulled me back in every night, over and over. One night I woke up and felt cold fingers tracing my arm. It wasn't a dream. I was wide awake. I tried light therapy. I tried sleeping with a TV on. I tried noise machines, but nothing helped. If anything, the shadows seemed to multiply. I started setting up cameras, not for proof, but for protection, to catch them in the act, but the footage was always blank. Have you ever had that feeling you're being watched, like a glitch in your peripheral vision? That's what this was, except it wasn't in your head, it was real. The dreams got worse. They became more vivid, like they wanted me to remember, to notice. One night I dreamt they spoke, not words, but feelings, fear and hunger. It was a warning. I started sleepwalking and waking up in places I didn't recognize. Once I woke up outside my apartment building in the rain. I don't know how much longer I have. The shadows are stronger now and I see them more clearly. They're waiting just beyond the door frame. If you're hearing this, don't fall asleep too deeply, because once they're in your dreams, they're waiting for when you wake up. Shadow people aren't just ghost stories to scare you at night. They're reminders that some things aren't meant to be seen or acknowledged. If you've ever felt eyes on you when no one was there, you're not alone. Hit subscribe if you want more stories that crawl under your skin and share your own experiences in the comments. But be careful what you invite into the dark. Some shadows don't leave when the light comes on.